Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Nice to have you with us. Nice to actually be in a box where my hands don't disappear when I put them over the edges. Right, so we're going to crack on today. We're talking about Kemi Badenoch. Kemi Badenoch, who has gone on the record to say that slavery wasn't that bad. Like, of all the tone-deaf nonsense that this crazed libertarian wing of the Conservative Party, funded and aided by the so-called charities, these think tanks of Tufton Street and the Heritage Foundation in America, saying, oh no, actually, slavery wasn't that bad. So what did they do to justify this line? Well, what they do is they say, well, it didn't make us that much money, really, if you think about it. Sheep farming probably made us just as much money. Okay, here's the thing, right? There might be millions of sheep, but maybe not like that many millions of slaves all working at the same time. But even if that was true, the stats that they've put together to prove it, they've said, oh yeah, well, sugar plantations only accounted for 2.5% of the economy, which, sounds a bit at the low end to me. And they might have just cherry-picked one particular year when, I don't know, the sugar crops failed or something because there was a bloody hurricane in the Caribbean. I don't know. But the point being that, 2.5% of our economy is still pretty big. And don't forget, that's just sugar. There were other plantations. There were other things being planted. There were other things being done by slaves for the benefit of the British Empire. And then they go on to say, oh, well, actually, colonialism might have been a net loss, actually, if you think about it, because the amount that it costs to administer these places, it's not like the British had this really weird idea of what the empire was about. So I'll just try and break it down. It started, arguably, in 1600 under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, who basically said, we're going to go out to, what's this place called? India. We're going to go to India. We'll found the East India Company. And this company scribbled away all the profits until the Victorian era, when it was put under state control of coming from India. And India in 1600 was the richest country in the world. It was the richest country in the goddamn world. When we left in 1967, it was one of the poorest. That money went somewhere. And what they've done, what the Tufton Street Ghouls have done, is they've taken these disparate little facts from particular years and particular things that cost a lot of money. There was an uprising, that cost a lot of money, so we'll write that down as a loss. The reality was, the British were very, very good at divide and rule. And generally speaking, in a lot of the colonies around the world, especially in the wake of the scramble for Africa in the 1880s, in which the whole map of Africa was carved up between the European powers, they didn't even think about what that would do to the people who lived in those areas. But what they knew is, if you had a country like, I don't know, Sudan, where the north of it was very Muslim and the south of it was more Christian or animist, then that will create problems in the future. Same with Cote d'Ivoire, same with Ghana, same with Nigeria. Nigeria is a really good example of this. In the north, it's very Muslim. In the south, it's very Christian. And the British who ran Nigeria at the time bloody knew that. And they did it on purpose to make sure that they were at each other's throats. So they only needed a couple of administrators who would pay some local people a lot of money to, stir up problems, because divide and rule. It is the Tory way. And now we've got a woman whose ancestry is Nigerian. She went to a private school in Nigeria. And she's saying, well, did we really make that much money out of colonialism? Yes! Check out our major cities and the buildings that are built there. They are outrageous. The amount of money that was spent on these things is astronomical. We can't even make this stuff these days because it costs too much money. We'd rather make a glass box because at least that's cheap. Copy and paste architecture, what we have to put up with these days in lieu of, beauty and humanity. But that's another matter. The evidence is all around us. Just go to Liverpool. Go and see. Walk down Dale Street in Liverpool. Look at those buildings and go, oh, no. We didn't really profit from it. We would have made more out of sheep farming. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they have sheep in, did they have sheep in Mongolia? Or did they have news? over there, or yaks or something. But I mean, seriously, that the idea that, oh, well, if we just, and the examples they gave were things like, oh, well, Germany did all right, and that didn't have an empire. And I'm like, it did have an empire until the end of the First World War, and it made a lot of money out of that empire. Belgium made an absolute, I say killing, they made a genocide out of the money they made in Congo, what's now the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the capital in Kinshasa, which used to be Leopoldville, named after Leopold II, the ultimate villain. Leopold Villain, I suppose it should have been called, who basically ran the Belgian Congo as his own fiefdom, and managed to slaughter a quarter of the population in doing so. I mean, the stats behind the slavery are just mind-blowing. You're talking about millions of people shipped across the Atlantic, many of whom didn't make the journey. And then they were sold into a lifetime of servitude. But all that the libertarian think tanks want you to think is it wasn't that bad. It wasn't so bad. Don't feel bad about that. Because they're terrified of having to pay reparations to these countries that we absolutely did a number on. And I think that we should. I think we should pay reparations. It's just the moral thing to do, but also it makes economic sense to try and get these countries up. Because if we don't, who are we going to sell stuff to? Can't sell it to the EU anymore. We've put up the barricades to that. The stuff we make is for middle-class people with a bit of watch. They're not going to be buying any Nissan Qashqais in Sierra Leone anytime soon. Not the average person who's living off $2 a day. Behave. And this we'll sell them to India. I'm like, India, there's no way we can sell stuff to India cheaper from here that's been made here than China can, which is next door. I know it's hard to get across the land border, believe me. As one of the people who's actually managed to traverse the land, one of the land borders between India and China, it ain't easy. But yeah, still, the fact remains that all shipping that goes from China to Europe goes via India, or at least past India on the way. That's just geography. It's not an opinion, it's just geography. I think I'm going to steal that as my new catchphrase. Thank you very much to Johnny Copperhead for the super chat. Thank you very much. That's very generous. Graham, how dare you tell the people? How dare you tell the truth about Britain's colonial past? You'll upset all those Tories whose inherited wealth comes from slavery and exploitation. Yeah, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about all your money that you're now spending on, I don't know, cocaine, which that adds to, modern slavery and exploitation. Well done, Tories. Yeah, so there was that story. And then there was another story that I wanted to talk about this morning, which is that apparently, I think it's Gillian Keegan, she's the horrible woman who deserves some respect or something for all the hard work she does. They're now decided that they're going to change the rules for the admissions for faith schools. It used to be that if it was oversubscribed, then only 50% of the population of the school needed to come from a certain faith. Now they're making that, they're turning the dial up on that to 100%. So you can have all Muslim schools, all Jewish schools, all Christian Catholic schools, all Christian Methodist schools, Protestants, Seventh-day Adventists. I guess the Scientologists will get a school, and the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, they'll get a school as well. And what you'll have to do to get your kid into this school is basically you'll have to go to the church every day, every week for a year to prove that you really believe in this stuff. That you believe that the most difficult questions ever asked humans, like the hardest question we ever asked ourselves. Where do we come from? What happens when we die? How did it all begin? We're all answered correctly in the Bronze Age. And the answer was, a wizard did it. So if you can pretend that you believe that, you can get your kid into the good school now. Great stuff. Brilliant. So you're going to go back to the situation we had in the 2000s. This stopped in 2010 to a large extent because these schools were forced to take kids who weren't particularly of a religious background or the correct flavour of religious background. Because don't forget, there's many flavours of Islam. There's many flavours of Christianity. There's different flavors of Judaism. You have Reformed Judaism, you have Orthodox Judaism, and they have different schools, depending on, different synagogues, sometimes different schools as well, depending on what flavor you are. Okay, cool, fine. I don't think we should be allowed to do this at all. I think the idea of having a school that literally has a sign outside of it saying, no dogs, no Protestants, no dogs, no Catholics, no dogs, no Jews, is disgusting. How can we move forward as a civilization if we're going to just go, oh yeah, we're going to separate the children into different things the parents believe? May as well have football schools, and everyone who supports Everton goes to one school. Everyone who supports Liverpool goes to another school in Liverpool. And then you get the weirdos who just like getting into fights who support Man United. They can go to their own school. It's just as daft. I mean, from an outside observer, it's like, why are you doing this? Oh, because we can. And Gillian Keegan went to a Catholic school, by the way. And she's like, oh yeah, the best education I ever had. And the Catholic Church, not known for abusing children in any way. I think they should be able to run all the schools they want and how they want to run those schools. Oh, what's that? They are known for abusing children on a biblical scale. Oh, that's ironic and horrifying. Maybe they shouldn't be in charge of schools. Maybe all schools should be secular. Maybe religion should be, I don't know, like your dick. Something that you just don't get out in public. It's fine what you do in your own home, but just don't get out in public, guys. Don't subject kids to it. If you know what I'm saying. Oh my God, that probably came out wrong. Anyway, right, moving on. Hello to everyone in the chat. I'm going to say a big hello to everyone. We've got Johan in there. We've got Serendipity. We've got Reagan, Elite, or Regan. We've got Maureen in there. We've got Billy. We've got Viv as well. And we've got Gallifrey and Ren. Oh, there's loads of cool people in here today. And Juck James is in there. Rick Parkin. Sorry if I'm missing you. I'm just scrolling down. Colin Baker is there from Doctor Who. My doctor. Christopher Bowles there. I think it's key to remember that Badenoch's family came here directly from Nigeria, not via colonial places like the Caribbean Sea. So a relation to slavery is probably more detached than we think. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Oh, wow, we've had a couple of super chats. A giant super chat from Plum Duff I'll come to in a moment. But first, thank you very, very much to Ivan Ambrose. The Tories have another thing coming. We will not shut up about slavery. We'll keep calling it out. Fantastic. I certainly will. Plum Duff here. Happy 1st of May to all. Let's hope you all have a great month. And what a great way to start it with a £45 super chat. Thank you so much, Plum Duff. That is so generous of you. Wow. I think between Plum Duff and Johnny Copperhead, they're kind of keeping this whole channel afloat, to be honest with you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Patrick says, I survives Catholic school. Indeed. Joe Lefty's in the chat. Hi, Joe Lefty. How you doing? Seeking to vote tomorrow morning with my mum, says Alec. Rough right, but my heart nurse is visiting today, hoping to get good news. That's from Gallifrey and Ren. I hope you do get good news there. Daily Blase, good morning. Saying good morning to Billy Kershaw. Stay clear of the lurgy then. Well, you tell someone you're not feeling very well, and there's two types of reactions, isn't there? There's the, oh, can I get you anything? Do you want a cup of tea? Can I do something? And then the other ones go, don't give it to me. I try and be the former camp rather than the latter, but that's just me. Tomorrow is Make Tories Cry in a Sports Hall Day. It is indeed absolutely Sisk and Edge. I can't stress how much I hate the Tories. They're trying to, and trying to rewrite history is something that winds me up properly, because I've been to these places. I've been to Cape Verde, I've been to the place where they sold the slaves, where they chained them up. You can still see the links. You can still see the rings in the rock where they used to chain up human beings and auction them off. It's just horrifying. I've been all over the Caribbean, and the remnants of slavery are all still there. And don't forget, you say, oh, the colonial era didn't make us that much money, really, if you think about it. It made us an absolute F-ton. And this idea that, we could have made more had we gone into something else. And it was the story that the IEA want everyone to think is because they're libertarians. You think it's just down to hard yakka and daring, being willing to put yourself on the line, and bollocks. It was all piracy, slavery, theft on an epic scale. I mean, we stole the Elgin marbles during the great era of empire. We stole things from countries all over the world. We stole the Benin Bronzes. We burned down the Summer Palace in Peking, and now Beijing, the capital of China, during the I think it was the Second Opium War that we did that, because they wouldn't buy our drugs. We needed them to buy our drugs. They wouldn't stop making laws against us selling drugs to your people. And the Chinese authorities were like, "Will you piss off out of our country? You absolutely suck." I tell you what doesn't suck. Captain Bark Roberts, you don't suck. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's really generous. Thank you. Happy People's Day to all at Labour Social. Thank you very much. It is May the 1st, May Day, and all the pagans out there, let's go party. And also, Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much. Plum Duff, you rock, with a £20 super chat. Thank you. You rock as well, Johnny Copperhead. Thank you so much for that. We ate most of the mummies, said Nova 15. Well, we ate them? What? We found these Egyptian mummies and we ate them? I mean, the plunder from Egypt was off the scale. I know that the Tutankhamun's, most of the Tutankhamun's treasures are now in Cairo, in Egypt, but there's a lot of stuff that the British just took. They just took it. Oh, we can have this. Said, oh, we got permission. You know, Cleopatra's Needle in London. What the hell is that doing there? You know, it's just. And they go, oh, well, it's all right because, you know, especially with the Elgin marbles, that's the one that really winds me up, because it's like, well, we bought them fair and square. You bought them off the bloody Turkish occupiers of Greece at the time. Like, it's like, you know, oh, well, we bought the Eiffel Tower off the Nazis when they had invaded France. So, you know, that's fair and square. We'll keep the Eiffel Tower then in Hartlepool forever. You know, it's like, why would you even think that was acceptable? Oh, but we paid. No, you didn't pay a fair price for it. You paid some invaders who had stolen it in the first place, and you know, years before helped to burn the bloody thing down by packing it full of explosives. Hey, where should we hide all these explosives? I don't know. How about that big building at the top of the hill? That's really, really old. Oh yeah, we'll put all the explosives in there. Great idea. Moving on. Christopher Bowles, the problem here is most people think the economics of slavery is done, but today the growth in inequality reveals the mentality isn't gone. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I was going to say about Jamaica in the Caribbean. When we pulled out of Jamaica in the 1960s, I think they got independence in Jamaica. There was no one there who was educated, because the black kids didn't get educated like the white kids did. They had schools, but you know, the level of education was it was night and day. You know, it was completely separate. This idea that they were like, oh yeah, well we had schools and the kids go there, and now, you know, we've left and take care of yourselves. And it's like the way that the you know, Britain manufactured it is absolutely disgraceful. The biggest disgrace, I think, well, not one of the biggest disgraces, there's a lot of them, was partition in India. Like, let's talk about partition for a moment. This happened in 1947, right? So this was when Britain pulled out of India after being there for over 300 years. Nearly 350 years of colonial rule in one way or another in India. And then we pulled out, and it was supposed to be a 5-year transition period. It wasn't. It was a 6-month transition period, because Lord Mountbatten wanted to get home because it was too bloody hot over in India. So he just wanted to get it done and dusted. The same thing we did with Brexit. Let's just rush it. And do a shit job. And they brought over a cartographer who had never been to India before to decide which bits should be Muslim and which bits should be secular Hindu. And that's how we ended up with 3 parts of India, what was West Pakistan, East Pakistan, and India in the middle. And the lines were just crazy arbitrary. They still are today. Have a look at the border. I mean, it's improved a bit, actually, in the last sort of 10 years or so. But around the border, especially the northern border of Bangladesh with India, zoom in and check out all the enclaves, all these little villages and things that they just drew lines around. They went, well, that's a Hindu village, so we'll have that as part of India. Okay, but it's in Bangladesh. Yeah, how are they going to get from their village into the rest of India without going through Bangladesh? Well, they'll need a visa, won't they? Or East Pakistan, as it was then. Absolute madness. And it uprooted millions of people and led to the deaths of 1 million people. 1 million people died in partition because of the British. There was no other reason for that happening except the British and what the British have been doing for hundreds of years with divide and rule and stirring up tensions between the different groups of people who lived in India. And, I'm not saying there was a wonderful golden era when everyone all got along. That's never happened in human history. But the British definitely made it worse. They definitely made it worse. I'll go back to my original point that India was dead poor at the beginning India was dead rich when the Brits first turned up in 1600, or when the East India Company was first incorporated, I should say. I don't know if they actually turned up that year. And when they left, it was one of the poorest countries in the world. From the richest to one of the poorest. 350 years. Nice. Johnny Copperhead, thank you for another £5. Thank you very much. Johnny says, if I can do super chat animation. There's some evidence that Moses' staff might actually be in Birmingham Museum. Yeah, that Moses. Well, that'd be quite cool. Didn't patois originate with the Maroons in Jamaica? Says Maranto. Yes, patois is a Jamaican dialect. It's kind of like a pidgin English that's spoken there as well. But also, there's a bit of a diaspora of patois. So the Garifuni people, who were a group of slaves that the British, who fought against the British, and as punishment, they were left on what was then known as the Mosquito Coast, which is now modern-day Belize and parts of Guatemala. And they basically dumped them there and said, right, die. And then went off into the, back onto the sea and made more money. That wasn't very nice. And but the Garifuna people, I'm happy to say, didn't die. They in fact did rather well for themselves. But yeah, there's different dialects. Where I used to live in Panama, in Bocas del Toro, there is there's a whole town called Bastamentos Town or Basti Town, which is like Little Jamaica. And the reason being is a lot of Jamaican workers worked on the Panama Canal 100 odd years ago, and their descendants stayed in Panama to work on the banana plantations that were owned by the United Fruit Company, which is an incredibly evil company. Hey, you don't actually have to have slaves to be evil. Like the oil companies prove that. You can't just exploit people and get away with it because that's what rich people want to do. And the people in Bocas del Toro, they have their own version of patois, which we call guadi guadi, which apparently is a pejorative way of describing it, which I felt bad about when I found out. But that's what the people there call it. So I don't really know what else to call that particular form of patois. But it's really cool. It's English with a bit of Spanish. I don't know, maybe some Chinese thrown in there as well. It's quite fun. But the people who are of Jamaican descent, actually, the from all over the Caribbean, to be honest with you, but there is a big Jamaican flavour. They're very proud of their heritage, and they keep their traditions. And if you go to Basti Town, there's generally a live band playing with the kettle drums and everything. It's really, really, really cool. But the point being that all that happened because empires moved people around and said, right, we need you to go here, we need you to go there, causing problems today. I'll give you another example. Fiji, a huge problem there because when the British turned up, they were like, right, everyone get to work. And the Fijians were like, what's work? What do we need to do that for? You need to make money. Why? To build a big, nice house, lord it over people. You need to make money. But we don't need to make money here. We have a very, very fertile group of islands that we live on. We take food from the sea. Coconuts grow. We eat them. We grow taro and casaba. What do we need? Breadfruit. Well, what do we need? I don't understand what this work is. Why would you do that with your life when you could just, take what you need from the sea sustainably? And the British were like, no, you got to work. This is the way it is. Protestant work ethic. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so the Fijians quite rightly said, no, piss off. You're not working. And so what the British did was, okay, we'll bring in some indentured labourers over from India. you know the kind of thing that's happening now in the UAE and Qatar? Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. So we brought people over and we said, right, you're going to work off your passage. So generally they were slaves. For the first few years that they were working there, they didn't get paid for it because they were working for their passage. Same thing happened in Guyana. Same thing happened in a lot of countries around. But that's why if you meet someone from Guyana, they might look like they're Indian. And you're like, how you look like you're Indian? Why are you from South America? It's like, well, actually, my family were from India 200 years ago, but they were brought over to Guyana to work. They were brought over to Fiji to work. But in Fiji, they had a rule that if you were Indian, you couldn't own property, which is still, I don't know if it's still on the books now. Somebody look it up. But when I was there, it was on the books. If you are of Indian heritage, you weren't allowed to own property there, so you could only rent. And so you had this disparity in society where you had the Indian community and the indigenous community or the Polynesian community, I should say, of Fiji, and it created a lot of tension, a lot of problems. Fiji got thrown out of the Commonwealth for a few years because of as a direct result of these tensions boiling over. Like there's so many things that you could point to each country that we were in, and how it's the crimes we committed then have echoed through the ages, and that's why these countries are in the state that they're in. But I go back to my original point. Well, not my original point, but one of the points I made earlier, which is if we give reparations to these places, invest in them, invest in businesses in these countries. Don't give the money to the government necessarily, okay? I'm not talking about charity here. That's something different. I'm talking about making an investment in companies, in businesses, in industries in these countries. That will benefit us because we've got to flip how we think about economics. We've got to stop thinking that if we have a few rich people and everyone else is poor, that's good economics. It's not. Austerity didn't work. The reason austerity didn't work is because for an economy to do well, you need to be able to sell stuff to people. If people haven't got any money, they're not going to buy anything and your economy will stagnate. And that's one of the reasons why our economy hasn't grown in 14 years. The only growth that we've seen has been in line with the population. It hasn't even been in line with the population, to be honest with you. Our per capita gross domestic product has gone down. It's gone down by 10% in the last 14 years under the Tories. Miranda says, East India Company too. Well, yeah, that's probably, so reading between the lines in this article in the Times, which I reference is in the description there. You can go and look it up yourself or look it up on archive.ph if you like. But yeah, the data that they've used looks incredibly cherry picked to me. If I handed that in when I was doing my history A levels, the teacher would have just been like, "This is rubbish, F." Just like go away. You're just making stuff up. You're basically shooting a barn door and then drawing a target around it and going, "Look, I hit a bullseye." That's what you're doing, and it's painful. And I'm feeling it's painful as a white British guy, and I can't imagine how disrespectful it is to people who have come from the families of slaves, and knowing that the money that was paid out in reparations to slave owners, not to the slaves, to slave owning families, that the debt on that wasn't actually paid off until 2015, was it? It was less than a decade ago. It was finally paid off. It's just like, my God, what the hell is wrong with us? But yeah, anyway. Mado, censorship is unreal in this chat. Half my comments don't get past the censor, and I'm not swearing. I'm hands off on this because one of the things I want to do on this channel is to have your comments coming up here. And I know that the comments, you can usually go back and watch them again when you do a live replay. However, we find that sometimes the live replay doesn't work, and I'll be referring to a comment and no one's got any idea who's watching it not live what I'm talking about. In order to do that, we've got to have the censorship on the highest level, and I've put stuff on here that's not come up. So yeah, sorry about that. But if you go into the live chat feed, this is the top chat. If you go into the live chat feed, you should be able to see everyone's comments. I'm half Guyanese and I look Indian. That's from Caroline. I'm thinking poached eggs, says Plum Tough, random. Biden says, thank you, Graham. Biden flavor compop. Captain Bart Roberts. I have a friend from Suriname. She looks like she's from the subcontinent. Suriname was old Dutch Guyana, and the capital is Paramaribo, I think. And yeah, the same thing. The Dutch had slaves and moved people around, and they made a lot of money out of it. Belgium made a lot of money out of the Congo. And to say, oh, well, on the greater scheme of things, is it that much? Yes. And also, you need money to make money, as I continuously prove in my life, where, if I'm given the opportunity to do something, I'll just bloody well do it because I'm okay at what I do. I'm not saying I'm brilliant, but if you give me a challenge and I can do it, then I can do it. If there's any kind of gatekeeper, if there's any kind of requirement of a bit of money to get started, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. It's life, innit? But yeah, this truism of you need money to make money. So where did the money come from to make Britain what it is today? Well, we started with money. We had money to start with. We left the countries, 50 of them that we ruled over in the Commonwealth, in the Empire days. We left them with nothing. So how are they made to make money? We talk about the developing world. And yeah, some countries are developing. India, arguably, definitely developing. But there's a lot of countries, especially in places like West Africa, where there's no growth. These countries are just stagnating. The stagnant economies. And the reason being is they've got no money to start with. And this is why I feel like Western investments is worth it, because it's, again, the morally correct thing to do. But also, it makes economic sense. Along with stopping using oil, or, I don't know, bringing in universal basic income, or being part of the EU. It makes moral sense. It makes economic sense. Both of them at the same time. And the only people who don't understand that it does are sociopathic idiots, I assume, because it seems pretty self-evident to me that the richer people are in general, the richer we all get. It's the way it works. If people weren't given the opportunity to read because they've gone to a state school and been taught how to read, I don't think that Musk would have made so much money. Oh, Musk's a bad example, actually. Yeah, what's his name? Zuckerberg. I don't think Zuckerberg would have made as much money out of Facebook if people couldn't read around the world. It's one of the requirements for using Facebook. You need to be able to read, right? Help people out. Johan says, Leopold II and later Belgium made an insane amount of money from Congo. So much that at one point, if we had, in memory serves, the fourth biggest army in the world. Yeah. I mean, the Congo story is just it's bonkers. Read King Leopold's Ghost. It's a fantastic book. I'd like someone to make into a movie. I don't know if anyone's made it into a movie yet. Johan's saying paper review time. I'm not doing the paper review today. Every single headline is about the knife attack, the sword attack, I should say, in London, and it's really disturbing. And a 14-year-old kid was killed on the street, and it's just horrible. So I made an executive decision not to jump into the newspapers because I generally like to do that, to sort of rip them and make fun of them, and it didn't feel very appropriate. And I really recommend Empire World by Sathan Sagara. It is Sahara. It's really, really good, and it goes into exactly Britain's effects on countries around the world. So the first one was Empire Land, and that was, more about the effects, I guess, on the UK and how we should feel about it. This is about the effects on the world, and I would recommend this book over anything that the IEA comes out with. A bunch of libertarian, ultra right wing, fascist, billionaire think tank paid for by oil companies, paid for by tobacco companies, paid for by arms companies, the merchants of death. They're disgusting, and to have a minister of state going, yeah, I believe these disgusting people, is horrific. And yeah, I'll have to say this, coming from a black woman, it just breaks my heart that she feels that she has to be this person. Same with Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak, who has this overwhelming desire to make life horrible for asylum seekers, refugees, for no reason other than what Phil was talking about yesterday morning, Tory sadism. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there because I'm going to be back at 12 o'clock for Prime Minister's questions because it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday the 1st of May. Happy May. Happy May Day. And Rishi Sunak might actually be turning up for this one. Who knows? But yes, I'll be here, definitely. Right, so thank you very much. Oh, Captain Bart Roberts, before I go, has just dropped in a super chat to say, thank you. Given how much we humans relocate ourselves and others, we should not be Homo sapiens, but Homo Vero, man the wanderer. I couldn't agree more. As a consummate wanderer myself, I would like to see a world with no borders. I really would, and I think the first country to do that will quickly become the richest country in the world. Because you've got to make a country that people actually want to go to. And, you know, if you opened the doors and said, yeah, you can come here and work if you want to, you'll make a mint. You'll make an absolute mint, but no one's got the balls to do it because it wouldn't play well with the base. Nick says, as AI profligates through the global economy in the coming years, abundance will spread as the cost of producing goods and services plummets. Deflation is the key to ending poverty, not more money. Well, Nick, you're right. But also, things have got easier than ever before. We should be more productive than ever before. And we're actually becoming less productive. And it's because of the binds that the government put on us. Things are easier than ever before. You know, looking up a file on your computer is a lot faster than finding it in a filing cabinet, for instance. I know that's not that great an example, but we should be incredibly productive by now. But also, we need to get rid of these jobs that people don't want to do. You know, these jobs that people don't enjoy. Like, what is the point of forcing people to do a job that they hate in order to pay rent to someone for a house so that person can pay off their second mortgage or third mortgage or fourth mortgage on their buy-to-let property? I mean, it's just a monstrous state of affairs that we need to revolutionize. I mean, it all starts with changing the way we think about stuff. And we really need to reassess our relationship with history, our relationship with geography. I mean, we left the EU, and our relationship with ourselves and each other. You know, that's got to be the foundation of it, where we go, okay, we need to reckon with what we've done. We need to look at the tools we've got now. What can we do with it to make people as happy as possible and to lead a life that they enjoy, that doesn't harm other people, and it doesn't lead to crime, doesn't lead to people being antisocial, and actually just people living their lives the way they want to live them. And I'd like to reach that utopia one day, please, preferably in my lifetime. But we seem to be going the other way at the moment, and with the polls coming in from America, and Trump still beating Biden in a lot of states. Oh, police are on to me. A lot of the states that are going to be holding the balance of power in the upcoming election. I'm really, really, really concerned. So yeah, but one thing I'm quite hoping for is for lots of Tories to be crying in what are they called in sports centres, leisure centres tomorrow. I doubt we're going to get that many tears because let's face it, it's mostly local elections, which I don't think people are going to be too bothered about. The two big ones to watch out for are the mayor of the Tees Valley, which is currently Ben Houchen, and it looks like he's going to keep his seat unbelievably when he sold off his land for like £1 or something. Oh my God. Sold off the people's land for £1 to his mates who are now making hundreds of millions of pounds out of that same land. And Andy Street, who's the Tory mayor of the West Midlands, he might lose as well, but we don't know. The turnout's probably going to be very low because it's the local election. Who knows? But one thing that I'm not even going to consider it a possibility that Susan Hall might win in London because she is the worst. Anyway, right, I better go because, you've got better things to do. So I'll see you in a couple of hours for PMQ's commentary with me. And tomorrow, Phil will be doing Morning Brew, but in the evening, I'll be doing a special election night coverage with some special guests from Labour Social, from Labour Social friends, or maybe not even Labour friends, just people who I know who want to come on and talk about politics. So please join us for that live and interactive. So until then, I'll say thank you very much for watching. Thank you so much for the super chats. It's really super generous and awesome. Thank you. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.